evening. It is Thursday, May the 1st, at about 7 o'clock p.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson with iKitesurf, bringing you a preliminary forecast for the Fort to Battery annual Fort to Battery race hosted by Force Kite and Wake and the James On Yacht Club. So special thanks to the Yacht Club for always hosting us at that location. We're not going to be paired with the barbecue cook-off this year, which is good. That means we have more room in the parking lot to put all of our cars and get all of our gear out, and we're not sharing all that space. So either way, let me put myself down here to the corner. I just want to kind of go to the website. I think I saw where there may have been about 60 people registered so far, and the last day is registration ends tomorrow, so make sure you get it in there. And then also tomorrow night is going to be the skippers meeting at the James On Yacht Club, 6:30 p.m. There'll be here's the thing right here: free food and beer, sponsored by Estuary Beans and Barley. I'll be there with other race committee members, Coach Ham, and others with the volunteer boats. We really appreciate them coming by every year to help us out on the water. And then the gates open May 3rd, 9 o'clock a.m. for the race itself. Now, we're going to be talking about the time to start the race tomorrow night at the skippers meeting. So it's still undetermined at this time, but at this point, I'm thinking sometime early afternoon, maybe 1, 2 o'clock as the sea breeze fills in. So let me go ahead and just share the surface feature map and talk a little bit through this. So what we have right now is we have Atlantic high pressure off the southeast and east coast in general that is producing a southerly wind. So we've been having some healthy, modest to somewhat moderate south-southwest sea breezes each day, almost due south from 180 degrees. So that's going to continue to be the case for today and tomorrow. One of the reasons for this is that there is a ridge axis that's extending right over central to southern Georgia, which means the winds just above the axis ends up being from the south. And the farther away you go, the more south-southwest and the more southwest it gets around the high pressure. So if you know anything about high pressure, winds go clockwise around it. And then in time, what happens is that high pressure wanes off the coast a little bit. It goes back out over the Atlantic, more towards Bermuda to set up as more of a Bermuda high pressure with this kind of setup, where the ridge axis actually falls through here. Tomorrow, it looks like another modest to somewhat moderate. It might be very close to what we see today out there. So we saw about 10 to 14 knots. But I think Saturday is actually going to open up a bit more, because what we have is a cold front approaching from the west it will pull up towards the windward side of the Appalachian Mountains. And then this Bermuda high ridge falls farther south, which means the winds open up more for us. So I'm thinking Saturday, we could see those prefrontal winds coming up a bit more than what the models are even showing right now. So one thing to think about is that the winds could overperform from what you're seeing. So if we take a quick look at Fort Sumter Front Range light here, where our sensor is, and run all the available models. So right now, due south at about 181 degrees. We see that today's winds were right in the 11 to 15 knot range. We could say 10 to 14. That's what I had in the pro forecast. It was just on the higher end with a little bit of a hedge for a couple of extra knots due to sea breeze enhancements. So tomorrow will be very similar, with a very similar setup with that high pressure. And as we get into Saturday, I think we're going to see a little bit more wind and a little bit more of a tilt to the south-southwest. Now, these directions will matter for Saturday, because based over land, what we're seeing, I think that the models are underperforming right now based on where that cold front's going to be. I think we'll probably end up in that 12 to 16 knot range sometime around 1, 2 o'clock p.m. in the afternoon. HRRR is bringing the sea breeze up around 11. Might be a little bit early, but not uncalled for. The NAM3 is still far down. So as we get into time tomorrow, I'll be able to exact this a little bit more. But at least right now, I'm still calling for a higher forecast what these models are showing, simply based on the way that high pressure is going to be setting up for Saturday ahead of that cold front. I think we'll get a little bit of low-level jetting out ahead of it. That will help bring those winds up. Very distant stuff, though, so not a whole lot of help. We're really going to be dependent on the sea breeze here. But if you know about the direction, so keep in mind the direction coming across land, that we get some of that wind shadowing effect over off the James On Yacht Club out over the water. So a Fort to Battery race is going to be pretty challenging if you're on a twin tip, especially. I would say those that have foils and can go in lighter winds overall, or stay on top of the water and make a harder cut to the left across the south wind, may fare a little bit better, whereas twin tippers may get kind of pushed more towards this direction with the south wind. It's really hard unless you're really cutting on a heel to get straight across on a 180-degree wind. And if it's a little bit more south-southwest, a little bit more of a westerly element makes it even more challenging, so that your line of ride kind of goes in this direction if you're on a twin tip. But if you're on a foil, you have a little bit more cut to get down the course and end up where the race finish would be, which hopefully would be somewhere out here where we make sure that it's far enough away from land to finish the race in that area. So across the Fort Sumter area, this area will be prime for the winds to cut across. But as soon as you get across Fort Johnson, is where that wind's going to get a little bit tricky. So just know that the first portion of the course will be pretty wide open until you get to a certain point, and then from here to here, maybe a little bit of a challenge. So just some things to think about there. As far as storms and rain, things look pretty good. I'm looking at the NAM3 right now through tropical tidbits. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like a whole lot's going to be able to culminate on as far as the rains and storms go for Saturday. So it doesn't look like too much is going to happen. If we run the HRRR, again, we're still 48 hours out or so. Um, just know that this could change. We get into Friday afternoon, Friday evening. We may see a few pop-up isolated storms. And those could, if we get rain, more widespread isolated areas of storm, that could trigger some for the next day on Saturday. But it looks like most of that's going to hold inland on Saturday through the morning and even into pretty much the late morning, early afternoon hours where it looks rather dry. So things look pretty good as far as that goes. It looks pretty dry until maybe Saturday evening. We could see some storms. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center does keep a marginal risk over our area, most likely going to be in the evening hours. So looks pretty good for the race so far. I'm not too concerned. One thing about the air temperature, we're going to be in the low to mid 80s, so warmer than normal this year. Water temperature is right about 75, so that's really good. And this year I'll be working with the Currents map. Now this is up in Annapolis, Maryland. I'm working a race for Quantum Sails, but either way, this is something that I worked with Kevin Rosa, and we're going to have one for the Charleston area, which is really neat. And I'll be showing that tomorrow night for the Currents. But either way, I'm going to go back to the Fort to Battery page here and just say, go ahead, register, come out tomorrow night. We'll see you then. Until tomorrow, I will be looking at everything, making some conversation with Stan and those that be Coach Ham and everyone else. But we'll see you tomorrow night. Ride with Force. Be there at 6:30 for the final forecast. Take care, everyone.